Velkommen til Bøje Larsens blog.
In this video, I will tell you about Max Schmidt, medical doctor and PhD, 1898 to 1968. He was a controversial Danish psychiatrist. In my opinion, he was mad, as I will try to demonstrate here, based on archive studies and published in my master's thesis for my Master of History at the University of Copenhagen in 2008. My analysis has been published in Library for Doctors, 202nd edition, December 2010. This video is part 1 of 2 videos. Part 2 will focus on a mentally ill organizer of conferences, who did not and does not understand that he is ill. Max Schmidt was a highly intelligent man with a fine scientific record. But he was nevertheless accused of several forms of non-professional behavior. He was biased in his judgment of patients and Danish traitors in their trials after the Second World War, when Denmark was occupied by Germany. He was, my studies show, biased in the direction of finding more psychopaths than others. And accused of very coarse and rude language in his written opinions, which were intended to find out if the accused were mentally ill to a degree, that they could not and should not be punished, but treated in a psychiatric hospital. But it seemed that Max Schmidt had decided that issue on beforehand, an issue that it was the court's job to decide. None of the accused, that he gave testimony about, were sent to hospitals unless they had physical illnesses. They were, as I said, rather given negative personal descriptions by Schmidt. They had to live the rest of their life with such negative statements from a respected psychiatrist, which was often harder for them than the sitting in prison, as many of them also had to do. Max Schmidt was for several years manager of a mental hospital at Augustenborg, a town in the south of Jutland of Denmark. Here he came into a conflict with most of the staff, and he wrote officially to the relevant ministers, in a very confused series of letters, more than 10 in a few days, that the main administrative manager of the hospital was mentally ill and should be put in a hospital for the mentally ill. This was later proven unfounded by other psychiatrists. Most of his employees at his hospital signed a declaration that if he did not leave, they would. The town council, where there were many members working in Schmidt's hospital, the biggest employer in town, supported the criticisms that the employees had. A hearing was held and the material revealed here aligns with my mentioned doubt about his mental health. Many employees, including some of the other doctors at the hospital, gave very damning evidence of his behavior, irritating and condescending, fast-changing moods, demanding, perfectionist, complaining that the secretary did not do small details correctly, does not speak with the patients, and if they do not say Dr. Schmidt, he would turn away, that a repair of the heating and ventilation system made what looked to him like shit coming into his flat, for which he sent his own hospital a bill of 25 Danish crowns or something like that. The conclusion of the hearing was not a total condemnation of him. But the Ministry of Health in Copenhagen felt that it could not go on like this and arranged his transfer to Copenhagen to a new job as a forensic psychiatrist, who had to examine criminals before they were sent to court. If they were mentally ill, they could perhaps not be punished. He started his new job in 1944, during the German occupation of Denmark. After the German occupation collapsed in the spring of 1945, 23,000 people were arrested in the early days of May for collaboration with the German occupiers in Denmark. Around 14,000 were later sentenced to prison. 46 were executed. I have studied the mental examinations he made. His results of the examinations are in the archives of some of these people, before they were sent to the courts. I studied 106 such examinations and found that their conclusions are not always well founded and with enough premises for the conclusions. I also see that he here, as in Augustenborg, uses coarse language and unfounded judgmental words. In this new job in Copenhagen, he also had to face an official investigation of his professional behavior. The investigation showed that he was much slower in giving the results of his evaluations than his psychiatrist colleagues. His written mental evaluations were much longer than those of his colleagues, also investigating the same class of collaborators. and the rest of the system did not find his examinations better. To fill it up, he also had serious problems with hiring young doctors and other employees. He claimed that his bad results in hiring were due to his difficult situation. But his colleague psychiatrists denied that and said, they did not experience difficulties in hiring staff, most likely young doctors and secretaries would not take employment with Schmidt. In the small psychiatric world of Copenhagen, everybody knew Schmidt and his bad behavior. Schmidt died 3 months after he retired. Perhaps, without a staff and patients to mistreat, there was no content in his life. I consider Max Schmidt a major blemish on Danish psychiatry. Thank you for watching. I look forward to seeing you in part 2.